What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD Mobile video. So today I want to just reflect on this entire year for COD Mobile that we just went through, because next week we are going to be entering year 3 for COD Mobile because, you know, we're getting season 1 once more. So I really can't believe this game is already over 2 years old. It's kind of crazy because, I mean, you know, I never really pictured myself playing this game, you know, back in the day, because I mean, you know, there wasn't really any controller support, and you know, me using touch, it just doesn't go well. I'm not really used to using like 20 different fingers to control your character. And I'll freely admit that I'm not the best touch player in the world. I mean, you know, obviously not. I never really use it. I mean, there were moments where I tried to use touch controls. You know, there was a time where the controller feature wasn't working a few seasons back, and you know, I tried using touch, but I just, you know, I used it for a few days. I just couldn't really get around it. I don't know. I know it takes more time than that, but honestly, I'm just too lazy to learn. And even with Vanguard and all the console COD games, I'm just, you know, I've already gotten used to this game, and everything else just feels very foreign to me. So I just like to stick where I'm good at, you know, stay in my lane. But anyways, today I just want to summarize, you know, what pretty much went on in general for all these past 11 seasons for the year of 2020. So around season 1 and season 2, I mean, we were dealing with the sniper meta for quite a long time, pretty much since season 13. I know the snipers were never really touched even before that, but people started using it obviously because there wasn't really a lot of meta weapons left. I mean, the only one at the time was the ASM-10 and the Man of War. So a lot of people just started switching to snipers, especially when Diamond Camo came out, because they realized that the Locust with Diamond Camo is the most appealing out of all the sniper rifles. Keep in mind, all this was happening when the SMGs and the assault rifles were still extremely slow, and I think dead silence still wasn't fixed at that point. Because if you guys remember, they nerfed dead silence so that you could only be quiet when you're crouching or, you know, shit like that. And of course, it pissed a lot of people off because, I mean, it pretty much defeats the purpose of dead silence. You're supposed to be silent when you're moving, either if it's walking, sprinting, or crouching. Eventually they met us halfway, and they made it so that you be silent when you're sprinting from a certain distance. If you get closer to the enemy, you're pretty much going to be heard. I mean, that wasn't really much of a big issue. I mean, as long as it was able to silence our footsteps in some way, shape, or form. So as for the sniper meta as well as the Man of War meta, I mean, it wasn't as bad as what we got later on. Oh, the sniper meta was pretty bad. I think it was considered one of the worst ones in my opinion. And that was mainly because at the time the snipers were so overpowered to the point where their ADS speed was way faster than any SMG in the game, even the Fennec in its max speed. And it was crazy because there was really no counter against them. I mean, it plagued Search and Destroy especially. I felt like Search and Destroy was the most affected game mode because of those things. And there was, like I said, there was no counter to it. And they didn't have any flinch, and all of the, you know, speed attachments provided a lot of benefits. So they had to nerf it down eventually around season 4 to season 5. I believe it was season 4. That was the time where, like, we got like a gigantic overhaul with most of the weapons. I mean, HBR was buffed, but of course not enough. But, you know, most of the assault rifles were buffed in a way so that they actually have a better chance on the field. But yeah, the snipers were pretty bad. That's why they had to get nerfed. I mean, they were so easy to use to the point where, like, I would see like level 40s, level 30s constantly just destroying me with like minimal effort with the Locust. It kind of felt like Black Ops 2 all over again. If you guys remember, I mean, the snipers were broken in that game. And, you know, this game was no exception, especially if you're a controller user. You have a lot more precision. And yeah, I mean, I think it's worse if you're a controller user because, I mean, it's like you have to be like literally retarded to miss. That's how easy these snipers are. I mean, there has to be something like legitimately wrong with you in your brain for you to be like extremely bad with snipers in the condition that it was at the time. When the nerf came by, I mean, yeah, the ADS speeds got slower. They got put down to a more reasonable spot. And, you know, I was fine with it, but I think the only problem I have now with the snipers is the flinch. And I've seen this a lot, especially in live streams where, you know, I'm trying to gun down a sniper, he's looking at me, and, you know, he would just take me down while I'm just like pouring all these shots into him. And it feels like, you know, I would constantly think, I mean, like, man, wouldn't this guy be flinching a lot, especially if you're like shooting an M13 right in front of his face? And I feel like that's one of the biggest issues currently right now with the snipers, because I feel like even if you have Vulture, even if you don't have toughness, I feel like they don't even flinch at all. But it's not really that bad. I mean, it's better than what we had in Season 1 and Season 2, which brings us to, you know, the newer weapons. I mean, we were introduced to the AS Val. At some point, we were introduced to the MX9, the AMAX, pretty much every single Modern Warfare weapon in existence. But man, I remember when the AS Val was first released, I had to get Damascus, and at the time, it wasn't really the best weapon because the bullet speed was so bad to the point where, like, your shots would land like maybe 2 to 3 seconds later, and getting long shots was an absolute nightmare. So they had to buff up the bullet speed in order for it to be a little bit better, and then it became like a little bit of, it became a meta for a while. But you know, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't as bad as it was with the MX9 or the M13 when those things came out. They were kind of like a small annoyance, like stuff that would come and go for like maybe a season. It wasn't really much of a big deal. And that wasn't until like the second half of this year where things started to kind of go downhill, especially when the MX9 was first released. So at first I didn't really think the MX9 was going to be a problem, but then I saw in the public test build large caliber rounds, and that's kind of weird, especially for an SMG, and it kind of made me question whether or not large caliber should ever be on an SMG once more, because it was really bad. I mean, this was probably the worst few seasons of my life for this game, and it was a plague. I mean, everyone was using the MX9. There was almost not a lot of counters to it. It was able to cross map you like in 3 shots. It was incredibly overpowered. As I remember, back then the damage outputs were incredible. I mean, if you had large caliber, the headshot damage would be like at 42 to 47, and it was absolute bullshit, because I mean, it was stronger than any assault rifle in this game. I mean, even with the Man of War, you hit someone in the head, that's just 40 damage, and the MX9 was able to do 42 to 47. That's fucking crazy. This was one of those weapons that actually got a lot of people to quit ranked, because that's pretty much all you saw in those lobbies. And, you know, with the introduction of weapon mastery and everything, I mean, people were just working on the MX9. People would post on Twitter about having their MX9 on master rank. And it's like, whoa, whoop-de-fucking-do. I'm like, you did something that literally the whole planet could fucking do in like a day. You know, it was crazy. A lot of people were posting their shit about the MX9 thinking that they're special. It's like, dude, anyone could fucking do it, because obviously the weapon was just way too easy to use. And look, it's one thing for a weapon to take over for maybe like 1 season, maybe 2, and get like nerfed in the middle of the 2nd season that's been around, but this thing went on for 3 seasons, and it was, every single second of it was bad. I mean, if someone was using a different weapon and you kill them once, they won't even hesitate to switch to that weapon. The second weapon that was around for that season, you know, the Rytech, also had its issues. It wasn't really overpowered, but it's still considered a very annoying gun, because there's just a lot of people that just stay on the head glitches, you know, with the explosive rounds, and it's kind of stupid, because I mean, the weapon's already deadly without it, and I don't even see why you even need an attachment like that. But for the most part, I just think people use it just to be a douche. The fundamental problem with the Rytech wasn't its damage or its ADS time. I think their damage and ADS time is amazing. But the problem was that the reload speed was extremely slow, and that's why people didn't want to use it unless they were using bullet return. But I did see that it was getting a buff for Season 1, so we're gonna have to wait and see. I should probably record the reload speed before the update happens, you know, just so I can make like a comparison between the two, because yeah, like I said, the reload speed was just awful, and like it was almost unbearable. Season 7, the MX9 still ruled. The Hades came out. I mean, the Hades wasn't really much of a broken weapon. I think at the time they were still having issues with the M27 rounds, or whatever, those little marksman rounds for the AMAX. Apparently, like, they were really overpowered. I didn't really get to experience much of it, and that was mainly because, I mean, the SKS was there to help. But yeah, so now moving on to the dreaded Season 8. So just when you thought the MX9 situation could get any worse, they pretty much added an assault rifle version of the MX9, which is right now currently the M13. So, I mean, what is there really much to say? It's overpowered, has no fucking recoil, has pretty high damage, and shoots extremely fast. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they still haven't even nerfed the M13 yet. If anything, they just gave it a buff. We also did get introduced, or I guess in this case, reintroduced to the Swordfish. And I mean, it was an alright weapon when it first came out. Of course, they made some buffs because I think it was a little bit too weak. Especially with the halberd mag, because even if you landed those 5 shots, you still wouldn't really get a 1 burst kill, from what I remember, because I didn't really like using that mag. I was more of just using a basic 4-round burst mag. And now we move on to the present. So in the present, right now, the current meta is still the M13, but now we also have the Type 25 to worry about. So yeah, 2 very overpowered, rapid-fire, high-damage weapons. Yeah, it's not really going that great. Hopefully... Well, actually, no. In Season 1, they didn't even nerf the Type 25 or the M13. So yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. The whole point of this summary, well, because, I mean, we're not even done yet, but the whole point of this part of the summary is to show that, I mean, the developers over time have not really improved when it comes to weapon balancing. If anything, they've gotten progressively worse. And that's mainly because, you know, if there's a gun that, like, hundreds of thousands of people are complaining about, they should already know that. I mean, come on, like, they pay attention to Reddit, they pay attention to what happens on Twitter. I mean, it's amazing that it takes them so much time to nerf down a weapon. And I do understand that, you know, legendaries do get released alongside new weapons that may turn out to be overpowered, but I mean, come on. I mean, like, once the draw is gone, you've made your money, you could nerf down the weapon, and yeah, I mean, everything could be just hunky-dory, but they don't do that. They take way too long to change any weapons that need to be changed for the better. I feel like this was a kind of like a result of like a lot of people leaving the game. And you know, Ferg talked about how the game's not dying. Obviously, we still have millions of players currently, you know, enjoying this game, but we could have had a lot more if the devs had, you know, better balancing choices. Some of my friends like Spartan, Ego, they've left the game because they just can't deal with it anymore. It's always the same thing. And, you know, like I said, they take a very long time to nerf weapons that need to be nerfed. So now we have to talk about game modes, and specifically Domination and Hardpoint. You know, the other ones are alright, but I feel like these two need to be talked about more often because they're very, very unbalanced in my personal opinion. So with Domination, you know, capturing the objectives is obviously a key thing. You know, whoever has the most will obviously get the most points to win. The problem is with the B objective. And what I mean by that is that once you catch the B objective, mostly you're going to have the enemy team spawn on both sides, meaning that they could take both A and C. And I fucking hate that with a fucking passion. So what happens is that the spawn kind of just fucks you once you get B, because, you know, your whole team is there capturing the objective. So meaning that both A and C are left unaccounted for, and the game decides to just spawn the enemy team on both sides of the map so they can capture both objectives. That is not supposed to fucking happen. I don't understand why that keeps happening. But yeah, that's kind of the reason why I just don't like playing Domination, because I consider it to be a wild card game mode, because no matter how good or how bad you are, there's no guarantee that you're gonna win, and it fucking sucks. This is made apparent especially on Shipment. In Domination Shipment, you're pretty much at the mercy of the spawn system. If the spawn system decides to, you know, treat you well, start spawning you behind enemies and having them kill you, and that's a fucking shitty part of it. I feel like the spawns for, you know, Domination Shipment is the most broken I think I've ever seen in this game, and I feel like they need to take out Domination from Shipment. It doesn't belong there, especially Hardpoint. I feel like Shipment should be more of just a kill-based type of thing, you know, where kill-based game modes are allowed, not objective, because it's just a coin toss for the most part. I could say the same thing about the Hardpoint spawns, but I feel like they're more rigged than anything. Because, you know, for the most part, when you get killed off a Hardpoint, they'll send you across the map, right? But when you kill the enemy off the Hardpoint, they just spawn 2 feet away from it, and it's fucking bullshit. And it's hard when they're just all coming in through like one door and you have to kill all of them, and then, you know, by the time you try reloading, they're already there again, ready to kill you. You know, you don't have enough time to breathe and just, you know, collect your thoughts for even a second without them just coming at you just consistently, because they just spawn like 1 foot away from it. And the situation was made worse when they added the orbital laser. As much as it helps you, it's also a detriment if it's used against you, a massive one. Because, I mean, like, yeah, while you're clearing them out, they could use that against you, and the problem is that it goes through buildings. So even if you're like in a very well constructed building, like let's say a 3-story or even a tower or something, you're still vulnerable no matter what. And I feel like they keep crippling you and crippling you even further in these hardpoint matches, and it sucks. That's why I kind of want there to be some sort of forward intel perk that kind of shows you, or it shows you a red dot for even a second to see where they're spawning at. So you would have a better idea where they're going to be, because I mean, having them just there all the time, like without you having a chance to even reload it, it sucks. We can't have a purely skilled match if you just keep handicapping us even further. And it doesn't help, especially near the end of the matches. I feel like sometimes it just goes downhill because, you know, persistence is also an issue. Out of all the perks, you know, for the most part, they're all right. But I think persistence is the only main perk that has significant issues. And that's mainly because you could get streaks even after you die. And it's just not right. This is plagued especially ranked. Like ranked, it's just bad because every match is someone with persistence. And let's say you're in a crucial moment where you may be at a tie against your enemy. They might have unlocked a gunship or some sort of orbital laser or even an airstrike to use against you, and it could end up costing you the match, even though you know full well they didn't deserve that score streak. Keep in mind, all this stuff is completely out of your control, and there's nothing you can do about it sometimes. So now moving on to other content releases like Zombies and, you know, Clan Wars. So first off, we're going to discuss Clan Wars because that came out first. So that came out around like maybe I think season 4, season 5. And it was fun at first, but until you realize if you're one of the top clans, you're always going to go against the worst of the worst. So it got so bad to the point where you couldn't really win a single node. And especially with me, because I mean, my friend Bruin, and some other people were an atrocity for a few seasons, and it just didn't go well because every single week we would go against JHC, and those guys are world-class grinders, like to say the least. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would be more fun if you could also get some trophy points for, you know, at least getting second place or third. But the thing is that you have to be first place to even win the node. So, yeah, you don't really get trophies if you're not first place. And that sucks, especially if you're going against an unbeatable clan. So I would just recommend just starting off a new clan, especially if you're one of the original top clans before Clan Wars came out, because it's not going to end well for you at all. You're always going to be placed with a certain way of matchmaking so that you could never win, and it sucks. I mean, doing the node activities like, you know, let's say capturing objectives on Domination or even winning matches in TDM, you know, they would have been more fun if there was some hope that you would win. But, you know, me going against JHC all the time, it just wasn't possible. And it wasn't really worth my time. I felt like I was wasting hours upon hours just getting nowhere. As for the rewards, at first they were kind of hard to actually earn because, you know, it would just take you a very long time. But they did update Clan Wars so you could earn a little bit more currency, and thus giving you more time to get the, you know, the character skin or whatever, like the gun skins. So it's nice that they updated the rewards to have it more affordable by just giving you more points. But I think the main problem was with the matchmaking, because like you're just not going to get any points if you're not number one. It sucks. That's why I just didn't like Clan Wars. But as for Zombies, it was a completely different ball game. For that, it was just basically Undead Siege for the most part. We didn't get a classic experience that we thought we would get, but we did get a new completionist camo around season 6, which was Ether Crystal. Basically, just kill a certain amount of zombies with a certain gun 6 times. But there was a time during the first round of Undead Siege where you would get, you know, double progression for a certain class. Of course, you had to wait it for double progression to affect, like, you know, let's say the snipers or the LMGs or even the pistols. So yeah, I mean, they did help you a little bit with that grind, but even then, it still took a very, very long time. And keep in mind, you have to do all of it in hard mode. It's not like you could have just gone into casual mode and just do those 3 rounds and be done with it. No, it wasn't that simple. But I mean, it was still fun. I mean, I was, you know, getting to know a lot of good people. You know, my friend Widowmaker, now we're very close friends on Discord. You know, we also Zenik. I mean, Zenik is like the light, or like, I guess he's the heart and soul of the whole grind, because he was there for a good portion of it. Also, I think Magnus, my friend Frosty, were also there. Bruin helped me a little bit too. Yeah, we had I had a lot of people helping me out with this whole grind, and if it wasn't for them, yeah, I wouldn't have done it. Eventually, they did update Zombies for Season 11, actually, where they added, you know, dark matter weapons for the Swordfish, DRH, Renetti, AMAX as well as the M13. Of course, it's going to be the M13. Why wouldn't it be the M13? The grind wasn't that long, and luckily, it didn't really require you to go into Nightmare mode, which is like the hardest mode in the game. Well, at least for, you know, Undead Siege. And really, I didn't bother for Nightmare mode. I know you could have gone the Renetti Dark Matter and the DRH Dark Matter, but, you know, my luck wasn't really that great when getting the ooze skins because I only got one of them throughout my entire Ether Crystal grind, which took weeks, by the way. And I only got one out of the 3. So, yeah, I'm not, you know, gonna waste hundreds of matches of my life to just trying to get those 2 skins. But it did give us some hope because, I mean, there are, you know, other leaks of dark matter weapons that may come out in the future. I mean, there was one for the chopper, there was one for the Rytech AMR. I don't know if there's any more, but I'm sure they're going to add more in the future. I'm hoping that this becomes like, you know, an ongoing thing. Other updates to Undead Siege also include, you know, Pack-a-Punch, all that stuff. Having the ability to get armor and everything. I will say Pack-a-Punch helps immensely. Now you can actually kill zombies at a much faster pace thanks to Pack-a-Punch. I'm glad that they added that in. I mean, they also added Ether Crystal for the current weapons like the PKM, Hades, M13. All the ones that didn't get it after Season 6 pretty much have Ether Crystal now. So I'm glad that they added those. Hopefully like later on they'll have like another update where they add more Ether Crystal on, you know, the future weapons. So now let's talk about miscellaneous features. So like I said, you know, we did get some perk changes for Gung Ho. We also got some for, what was it? Agility. We got some for Skulker and all that stuff. And I think probably the most notable change that we got specifically in Season 8 was the ability to finally add completionist camos onto our blueprints. This, of course, applies to Gold, Platinum Damascus, and Diamond, but unfortunately, Ether Crystal was not able to get the same treatment for whatever reason. I would assume that, you know, since Ether Crystal is more of a motion-based camo, they would have to kind of like incorporate that into each of those epic skins. I'm assuming that's a very challenging thing to do, but they did have a survey for us whether or not we wanted Ether Crystal to be on those on those blueprints. So hopefully in the future, maybe by the end of this year, we could probably get that, or even earlier. Who knows? There was no other new completionist camos for, you know, multiplayer, such as, you know, maybe some sort of animated camo, some reward for getting diamond on, let's say, a weapon class, or just all the weapons in general. So I'm hoping that they could change that within this year. So now let's talk about the skins, you know, the blueprints, whether they be epic or legendary or even mythic. So, I mean, for the most part, the mythics have improved immensely in these past few seasons. I mean, the Morning Star is phenomenal. I mean, even the P90 amoeba is pretty cool as well. So as time went by, they obviously improved, and not only with the mythics, they also improved with the legendaries as well. They look a lot more cosmetically pleasing, but I did kind of make a pledge that I wouldn't buy too many legendaries, just, you know, the key ones, you know, let's say the mythic draws or even the legendary characters. You know, anything that is new or something that I may actually like beyond comprehension, but yeah, anyways. They also made some serious improvements to the Battle Pass skins as well. I mean, you know, at the very start, we weren't really getting a lot of good Battle Pass skins, especially for the tier 50 ones. You know, for the most part, they were just awful. I mean, they were just the basic, you know, gun skin or the gun structure with just some minor paint on it. I mean, if you guys remember, the torpedo skin for the AMAX was just a black version of that weapon with just yellow stripes. It wasn't really anything special. The same can go for the AS Val Judgment as well as the PKM Boru. I mean, yeah, I would say, I mean, I know the PKM is still a recent weapon, but they could do a little bit better when it comes to the tier 50 skins. That's all I ask. As for the other ones, you know, within the battle pass that's before tier 50, I think they're doing a really good job. As for crates and bundles, they more or less stayed the same. I kind of wish that they would increase the variety when it comes to the bundles a little bit more. And it's nice that they added the For You section for anyone that may have missed a certain draw that they, you know, wanted to get at that time, but they just didn't have the required funds needed. Another feature that I did like for this year was the fact that they added the Ultra Frames mode. I believe it's, what, 90 frames? I hear a lot of people say it's 120, a lot of people say it's 90, but I think it's actually 90 frames per second. And honestly, I kind of like it, especially if you do have an iPad Pro or a certain type of cellular device. you will get this kind of frame rate. Kind of sucks that you have to stay on medium graphics, so you don't really get to experience the full glamorous look of your legendaries and mythics, or you know, any other skins out there. So yeah, that's an unfortunate thing, but of course, I mean, our devices will probably burn if that happens. So I'm hoping that maybe the next iPad Pro that comes out is a much higher jump with when it comes to its specs, so I could actually run, you know, ultra mode with like maybe high graphics at least. And I did say this like a year ago. I did say that, you know, COD Mobile is a constantly evolving game. I mean, you know, the more they pretty much evolve alongside the devices that get released. So, you know, the better they are, the more appealing COD Mobile is going to look, especially with its skins. But yeah, overall, you know, the year of 2021 for COD Mobile, which is its year 2, I mean, it was an alright season, but I kind of wish that the meta was a little bit better. I feel like the developers need to work on their balancing strategies, because it's just not great. You know, for all we know, it could be even worse this year, and I'm hoping that's not the case. But you know, for the most part, it's alright. I mean, they do also have to work on, you know, hard point spawns and everything, because you know, the spawn logic isn't really that great for those modes. But when it comes to like the kill based modes, like kill confirmed, free for all, or even team deathmatch, I mean, they're all right. But for objectives, I feel like they need to be like toned down a little bit, so they could, you know, be a little bit less frustrating, because every hardpoint match when I'm going against, you know, real people, it kind of sucks. It becomes way too stressful. But hey, I'm pretty much in it for the long haul. I mean, who knows? I mean, my channel has grown exponentially. I can't thank you guys enough. I think before this new year started, I mean, I had like maybe what, 2,000-3,000 subscribers. I mean, it's nice that I'm already at 5,000. Well, if anything, I probably had like maybe 1,000. I'm not even sure. So I'm going to try to make a goal by the end of this year. Hopefully I could, you know, reach up to 10,000 subscribers or something like that. Hopefully maybe even more, because I might, you know, I'm starting to get a larger amount of subscribers. So yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me along the way. And yeah, let's prepare for year 3. Let's see what year 3 has in store for us. Hopefully we finally get a dark matter or some sort of DM Ultra completionist camo, or even atomic, who knows. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure to leave a like. Make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.